Were you a business major at USC?
No, I was a theater major.
So you wanted to be an actor
Yes.
originally, and then you decided to turn to producing,
Yeah.
which you're doing now, but
Well,
you still act.
It's all been a path designed to get me into directing. I started out at a very young age. I lived in Washington, D.C. when I was a child, and I got a role in a professional production of Christmas Carol. And actually, the guy who played Bob Cratchit was David Strathairn. So, you know, it's a really good show that they do every year at Ford's Theater where Lincoln got shot. And at that point, I, you know, was like 12 and collecting checks and thought this was a pretty good idea to stick with it. So I ended up acting my entire childhood and applied to the conservatory acting program at USC and got in, and then came out to Los Angeles because I figured this was ground zero for film and television, and worked through a bunch of, you know, you have to act in a production every semester at USC as part of the curriculum. And after my sophomore year, I started to want a little bit more than just being in front of the camera, and getting behind the camera or getting behind the scenes was the next step. So I went into the dean and asked if I could direct a play every semester instead of acting in one. And they were like, yeah, they had plenty of actors, so they let me direct a show. And so my last 2 years, I directed my first 4 shows, and then ran a theater company out of school and started going along. I mean, it's a long story, but.
Well, what was that made you turn? Where did you go? Because so many people come here, they want to be in front of the camera. Even if they say they want to be a director, it's a ruse to get somehow in front of the camera. Even, you know, somebody was saying orthodontists have headshots out here. So everybody, it seems to want to be in front of the camera. What was that shift? What was it?
Originally, like, my love for this sort of life in entertainment started with my stepfather, who was a theater critic. And when I was living in London as a child, he used to take me, because they'd always get 2 tickets, and I was his +1 in a lot of plays as a young child. And I said, you know, I fell in love with that idea of being on stage, of being in theater. So when I got back to Washington, D.C., I had the opportunity to try out for those productions. I worked in Christmas Carol as Tiny Tim, and then ended up at USC. So it does go all the way back to that. But yes, the professor at USC that I had, he had seen that I was going out on auditions. I had a commercial agent. I booked a commercial here and, you know, did some things, but I started to get a little frustrated with not being the exact person that you have to be, you know, on the other side of the desk. The people, you know, the directors, the producers have something in mind, and if you're not that exact person, they just go on to the next one. They try to find it. And I wasn't willing to let my entire career be defined by whether or not I happened to be the right person when I walked in the door. I wanted much more control, you know, in my life. And so when the professor offered me an associate directorship on this production, I took it. I was like, you know, I want to explore what this would be all about. And I really, you know, found that it opened up a lot more avenues for me. It wasn't just about being the one character, playing the one role. So much of the interpretation of the literature and, you know, the screenplay or the script, you know, dealing with the lighting and the music and working with all the actors was just so much of a more of a world. And the other thing is, you know, you get judged on your style of what you produce, and anyone, you know, you can be any size, shape, color, and, you know, if you have an idea or you have a story that you want to tell, it's the story that matters. And ultimately, you know, I mean, that's the thing for me above all. When I'm working on when I'm producing or directing, I focus all my energy on the story and developing that story, and, you know, bringing the vision not only in my head but in everyone else that I'm collaborating with, you know. So that's what was, when that world opened up to me. Acting just it was great, but it wasn't as fulfilling as working as a director or producer. It is.